soil and all this flooding and all this destruction. And then slowly plants come in that are adapted to open, sunny conditions, shallow soils, and you get these really scrappy, tough, slow-growing plants. And then they start to capture the soil. They start to capture the water. And then it's green again. And so during the transition from the rainforest to a savanna, it looked like hell on earth. You thought, how could this ever get fixed? But nature has a way. And organisms, initially plants, but later animals, come in to take advantage of that situation. And so when we say we're going to lose habitat, that's true. We're going to lose the habitat that's there. Then we're going to go through a very ugly and apocalyptic transition. And then we're going to get a new habitat. That's just how nature works. Nature wins. Nature just keeps going. The bigger problem for humans is that will any of that habitat that results from climate change be suitable for human habitation the way we like to inhabit? We are a disturbance species. We are basically an open ground, grassland, savanna species. We left the jungle. We went out onto the plains to hunt the animals. Now, it was an ice age. The plains were plentiful. The jungle was being pushed back. So it made sense for us to do that. But now we're transitioning the planet back into a state that was similar to what it was 10 million years ago, 20 million years ago, 30 million years ago, before humans were even on the scene. And that will be more like jungle. We won't have our open plains. We won't have our savannas, our grasslands, unless we're willing to fight for them, because we need those. That's where we grow our wheat. That's where we grow our corn, our grains in general. They're not grown in jungles. We're not a jungle species. We need open ground. You know, the jungle comes, we leave. We disappear because, you know, that's not our habitat.
Right. Yeah. So when Bill Gates says that we're going to lose all of our ecosystems, like I was listing the ecosystems we were going to lose, which we are losing right now as we speak, which is our coral reefs, our redwood forests, the Joshua trees.
Yeah.
Are we losing?
We're losing the redwoods.
Yeah. Right. Right.
I don't know. We're probably gonna lose everything.
Our coastal systems, that's what he said, you know, that's what he said. We're gonna lose all our beaches. Our beaches, not
and your marine wetlands.
Right, yeah.
Your estuaries, your mangrove swamps.
Right.
And of course you'll lose large parts of Florida, Louisiana, Mississippi, Texas, inland California.
Even our what's it called, where we're growing our crops in the Midwest, those are prairies, stripped of its soils and stuff like that, right? Basically.
Well, that's modern agriculture doing that.
Yeah, but I was thinking the winds, when we when we lose a lot that way, they added in nature.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And Kat says, all of the animals that you can think of, that you can name, are going to be gone, right? Anything that you
anything, pretty much anything you've ever seen
or heard of, or learned about. Yeah,
documentary.
Right, yeah, right.
Anything he thought was worth photographing or describing, those are all going to go extinct. Nothing will survive.
Right.
I mean, you'll still have squirrels, possums, raccoons, pigeons, rats, mice,
roaches.
All this urban stuff will be fine because there will always be human urban landscape, and they'll just go along with us. Wherever we go, they'll go. But the what we call the large, charismatic megafauna are all essentially doomed. I don't think anything bigger than a raccoon is going to make it. They require large amounts of habitat, undisturbed habitat. They require functioning ecosystems, and they're not going to have any of those things. Well, you don't have it.
I'm
You can't
dressing
survive.
and maybe the tea. I didn't bring a napkin over. I'm good then. Yeah. So this is what we're facing. You know, when he says, you know, okay, and Bill Gates says we have 30 years, which God says we don't have 30 years to
We
do
might
this.
have.
10,
Okay, we're already
9.
seeing. We're already
Right.
seeing the destructive influences of what we're talking about here. So on a purely technical point, we have 0 years.
Right, we have 0. Yeah, we're already there.
Okay, we're already there.
We're losing everything.
Now, what's going to happen in 10 years? What's going to happen in 20? What's going to happen in 30? It's hard to say. But I believe, given the pace of change and how vulnerable things are out there, my expectation would be that the 6th mass extinction will be half done in 30 years. We will have lost half of 1 million species. Years.
Well, they've said the research, maybe it was the IPBES or something they call it, IPBES, the International Group of Biological and Ecological Services. That was that 1 million species were vulnerable to extinction in the next couple of decades. So it wasn't even, you were saying, decades.
Maybe I've understated it.
Well, I guess a decade is what you're talking about. Half would be done in the next decade, right? Basically by 2030.
I expect a half of, if it's 1 million, then I expect a half a million already to have been extinct.
By 2030?
By 2030.
Okay, that's another decade. And a decade or 2.
No, actually, I said 30 years.
Okay, so they're saying less.
They're saying less than that. Okay, fine. I was probably being charitable. Now, a lot of those 500,000 or million will be animals you've never heard of. Certain types of frogs and salamanders and whatnot. But don't kid yourself.
Insects,
Except with massive human intervention, you're also going to lose all the large, charismatic African megafauna. All of them. Every single thing will be dead. And it will be eaten or traded into the Chinese food market. Okay, it's just going to be it's just going to be slaughter because people need food.
Right, and they didn't prepare to grow the food. They go into the forest. They get the easiest thing they can, which is to go get a pangolin that's hanging in a tree, type of thing, right?
Well, the pangolin trade is for money.
Well, okay, fine.
People are also making money on wildlife.
Yeah, right.
I don't know what the going rate is for a pangolin in China, but they're considered a luxury. They pay a lot of money for them.
Right.
So if you're in a part of the world that has pangolins, you're out there scrounging around trying to catch every single pangolin you can lay your hands on.
Right. To sell it.
For food. You're not necessarily eating it.
Right.
Why would you eat it? It's worth a lot of money.
Right.
You eat the sweet potatoes and the yams. You sell the pangolin.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah.
Now the deal with that is there's 2 billion people that would love to get their hands on some pangolins.
Right.
So there are not 2 billion pangolins in the world. Well, how many pangolins are there? 50,000, 100,000? I mean, who knows? I mean, they're a large animal. There can't be too many of them.
And they don't live in what are they? They're more, a pangolin is more of like
an anteater.
It's like an anteater? Okay. And they're a ground, they're not in the trees. They're a ground animal. And what do they eat? Are
ants.
They, okay. They eat ants? Okay.
Or termites or both. I don't know.
I mean, they look similar to the anteater too. Okay. But they have more of a scaly.
Yes.
And they love them for their scales too. Right?
I have no idea what they love.
I think they do.
I have no idea what they do with pangolins.
I think they do. But anyway, they eat them. So, Bill Gates is doing a good job of bringing attention to the problem. He's been looking at it a long time. And he's saying, we have 30 years, so don't worry. And that's Kat says, no, we don't have 30 years.
No, you don't. On a level, we have 0 years.
Okay.
The harms
Right.
here,
Right.
okay?
Yeah.
What happened in Texas, I don't care what the Texans say about it,
Mm-hmm.
but what happened in Texas is global heating,
Mm-hmm.
right? Everybody who understands this problem understands that.
Mm-hmm.
Attributing the problem that happened in Texas and the rest of the Midwest is easy, okay?
Yeah.
Everybody saw this coming.
Right.
Now, if they don't want to believe that or talk about that,
Mm-hmm.
and they're going to blame the windmills for giving people cancer, fine. I don't care what people think. Think
Lie.
whatever you like.
The lie.
People lie to themselves all the time about everything.
Yeah, and there was a book, remember? There was a famous author that talked about the big lie. It was about like 30 years ago. He wrote a book or something, 30. Do you remember him?
No.
Anyway, he was, I don't know, that's what we're dealing with is the lie and how we're lying. We're just lying. And,
Okay, but Bill Gates has access to the same and even better information that I do.
Mm-hmm.
And he's no dummy.
Right.
What he is he's a rich guy, heavily invested in industrialization, and he wants it to continue.
Nuclear too, yeah.
Everything.
Uh,
Listen, people like him sit around and talk about themselves,
mm-hmm.
their wealth, their industry segments, everything.
Yeah.
Financialization, investment,
Right.
global finances,
Right.
global economics. All they talk about. So when they invite someone, an expert, to come to their little soiree and give a talk about the threats to industrialization,
Mm-hmm.
of global heating and climate change,
Right.
they're going to get the talk that they pay for.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to get, we have to save the whales. They're not going to get some hippy-dippy talk. They're
Mm-hmm.
going to get an economist who understands the underlying issues, and they're going to talk about the economy and climate change, okay?
Right.
How much money is at risk? I mean, this is the actual talk.
Yeah.
How much money is at risk? How many industries are at risk? Where is the malinvestment? Where are the stranded resources going to be?
Mm-hmm.
That's the talk they're going to get. So when he comes away,
Mm-hmm.
he's going to repeat to you
Mm-hmm.
the talking points, the bullet points he got
Yeah.
when he invited some economist to talk to him and his group about the impact of climate change. He's going to say, "Whoa, wow, we have to decarbonize our industries,
Right.
find alternative energies to run our factories. We have to
Right.
move our infrastructure inland from vulnerable coastal areas." And
Yeah.
that's what you're going to hear from him. All right, that's what you're going to
Yeah,
hear.
we are hearing it. Yeah.
That's what you're going to hear from him. Never expect Bill Gates to say anything other than those things. He's never going to invite anybody to his party who's going to talk about the threats to human welfare and human life, about how humans are vulnerable to the end of both the changes in climate, but also the end of fossil fuels.
See it in Texas, what happened in Texas.
Yes. We are people,
Yeah.
100% dependent on constant 24/7 fossil fuel inputs.
Yeah. Right.
We are in a bad place.
Right, bad
we are
place.
in a dying place. We are in an extinction place.
Uh-huh.
You can't have 8,000 million people dependent on something that's about to go away.
Right. Exactly.
Now, the last time we were not dependent on fossil fuels was maybe the year 1700, probably the year 1400, when there was at most 250 million humans on Earth.
Mm-hmm.
And that 250 million number had been constant for a long time, going up slowly, but not by much.
Right.
People were living within the limits of the Earth, and that limited childbirth, expansion, industrialization. Technology came along and changed some of that picture.
Mm-hmm.
But hey, the technology was almost immediately coal and other fossil fuels. 250 let's say 400 million. Let's say 800 million. Just have a round figure. We went from 800 million, which is not true, to 8,000 million, a tenfold increase.
Mm-hmm. In how many years?
In 300 years, based on fossil fuels, a
Right.
tenfold increase.
It was that injection of fossil
Yes.
fuels
that stored energy that made everything possible.
right, that we can have 10 times the growth of our population.
And probably the actual number is 400 million to 8,000 million,
Which
and that's
is-
a 20-fold increase.
Okay, 20-fold.
It's still in the ballpark, right?
But
Orders of
20-fold
magnitude.
increase is unlike any other species. I mean, this is not in 300 years. It's only the injection of the fossil fuels that made that.
I would be hard pressed to come up with another species that in the same or even any period of time enjoyed a 20-fold increase.
Right.
20-fold increases are really uncommon. You have to create artificial habitat for that to happen.
Yeah. Right. It would be human intervention.
Okay, we've done that with our cattle.
Okay, right.
We've done that with our cattle.
That's what I said, human intervention.
We've done that with our chickens and pigs.
Right.
Okay.
Right, and that's called
Artificial habitat.
And that's what they say. Most of the biomass, which is the weight of how many animals are on the planet, right, is the humans and all the animals that we, are
Livestock.
all of our livestock. Wild animals are like 4% of our biomass, almost very minor. So yes, we have increased the amount of cattle and the amount of chickens and the amount of even the amount of fish from our to some degree we raise fish and so birds and cattle and pigs.
But these are our animals.
Yeah. We're giving fossil fuel based
of us.
And we're giving fossil fuel based.
You can't go out into nature and find a species that on its own, under normal conditions, increases its numbers by 20-fold.
20-fold.
We did that.
Right.
And we brought our animals
fuels
with us.
And it's our fossil fuels. That's what we feed our animals. It's we feed our animals. What is it? Livestock, grains that are produced through fossil fuel based farming.
Modern agriculture, all of it done with fossil fuels.
Yeah.
Every single bit of it.
Yeah.
Well, now people are telling us, we have to get off of fossil fuels. Well, all right. Let's just assume that happens.
Mm-hmm.
It seems unlikely to me, but let's assume it does.
Mm-hmm.
So how are you going to grow all that corn and wheat and soybeans? And how are you going to keep all those domesticated animals alive? And how are you going to move all that food around? And how are you going to have all these suburbs with car dependency and all the Whole Foods everywhere and trucks coming in all day and all night bringing food? How are you going to do any of that?
Mm-hmm.
How are you going to fly bananas from Ecuador? How are you going to do anything?
Right. Well,
now, is Bill Gates worried about that? I wonder. I don't know. I think he's more concerned about where he puts his server farm. Where's he going to get electricity for his server farm?
Well, what he's saying is that, and I wasn't sure about this, but he said the research shows, his research, that transportation is one of the major 5, sources of greenhouse gases, along with agriculture and manufacturing being the largest. He says manufacturing is the largest, and that includes our steel and our cement. And so he's more concerned about bringing the steel and cement forward. And that now I understand why. And thinking about it, he's trying to build nuclear plants, and you need steel and cement for that, right? Most probably, right?
Yeah.
And so it's that kind of, like Kat says, to keep industrialized civilization going is what his orientation is as a businessman.
Now, I want to deal with framing.
Yeah.
This is actually a change of topic, but it has to do with something you just said. Bill Gates is worried about how to reduce carbon emissions.
To zero.
That's an interesting kind of framing. Now, I want to point to the carbon emissions are the end product of our industrialization. I'm going to talk now about the front loading.
Okay.
Our challenge is not really to reduce our carbon are carbon emissions. You can say that, and I can say, no, that is not really your challenge. Your challenge is on the front end. You have to find a way to eliminate your dependency on fossil fuels.
Right.
And you can say, oh, well, that's the same thing. No, that is not the same thing at all.
Mm-hmm.
There's lots of people who have a mindset that allows them to talk about reducing carbon emissions, because in the back of their mind, they've separated the problem from the front-loaded problem. They've separated the back-end problem from the front-end problem. They see the back-end problem as carbon emissions. They don't see the front-end problem as fossil fuel consumption. If you could get a bunch of people like Bill Gates and a bunch of other industrialists, including, by the way, ExxonMobil, you could get all these people in a room, have a big conference, thousands of industrialists, and talk all day about reducing or eliminating carbon emissions. And they'll stand there and they'll talk and they'll listen and they'll scratch their chin and they'll have ideas about how to reduce carbon emissions. If you get one speaker up in front of that huge crowd and you say, now, all this talk about reducing carbon emissions, how about we just solve the problem by reducing fossil fuel consumption? They'll throw rocks at you. Okay? They'll throw rocks and tomatoes at you.
Well,
they'll boo you off the stage. The reason why is because their party can't continue without fossil fuel consumption. It's debatable to them whether their party can continue if they do or do not reduce carbon emissions.
He says, I got to look it up exactly what it is, but 51 billion tons that we use every year. And I don't know what it is that I'll have to look it up. Is it CO2 or is it?
No.
What does he say? And it has to go to zero. And I don't know if he's talking about.
Okay. We're talking about
tons of.
It's 51 billion tons or 50 gigatons.
You've heard of that? Yeah.
Of carbon emissions.
Of carbon emissions. Okay. I have to go to zero. So what God is saying is, and I think, in listening to him and in terms of listening to Bill Gates, and what Bill Gates is saying is that we have to now engineer or create solutions for substitutions for our manufacturing. And what God is saying is that we have to look at it the other end. We have to stop manufacturing. We don't have to go forward. And these next 30 years, we have to figure out how we're going to create cement.
I've never said that.
Remember?
No, that's what you say.
Okay, fine.
Here's what I say. And I always say this, and you always make me correct you.
Okay.
I never say stop manufacturing.
Okay.
What I say is you must stop consumption of fossil fuels.
Okay.
That's the only thing you have to do.
Well, and he's going to do. He's saying that we have to stop the CO2.
No, it's not.
Okay.
These are not the same thing. Stopping CO2 emissions is not the same.
Because you could start.
As
stopping
fossil fuel
trying to figure out how to put it back in the ground, and he's doing that. They said,
I'm trying to make a point here.
Okay.
2 points. One, eliminating CO2 emissions is not at all the same conversation as eliminating fossil fuel consumption. Bill Gates will never have that conversation with you. And you wonder why, Bill? It's the same thing. It is not the same thing. And when I say you must eliminate fossil fuel consumptions, I stop there. I don't know how you're going to maintain your aviation industry. I don't know how you're going to maintain your manufacturing base. That's not my concern. My concern is stopping fossil fuel consumption. Now, if you do that, if somehow you stop fossil fuel consumption, if you ever manage to do that, I'll make a prediction. This is not a prescription. It's a prediction. I'm not telling you have to do this. I'm saying this is what will happen. If you stop fossil fuel consumption, what you're going to find out is that you do not have flying, driving, movement of goods, movement of money, and jobs. Okay? I'm not saying you have to stop flying and stop driving. No, I'm not. I'm not telling people what to do. I don't want to be sued. I don't want to be shot. I don't want to be killed and hanged from an oak tree, okay? For bringing that terrible message. I'm just saying. The way you save yourself from global heating is you stop consuming fossil fuels. That's it. And if you ever do that, I have some news for you. What you're going to find out is that the dependencies your civilization has on fossil fuel consumption are going to break. And what you're going to discover is that you could not save your aviation industry, your transportation industry, your movement of goods, and your movement of money, and your movement of jobs.
the one part you didn't address in that is the manufacturing. So could we? No, we're producing cement right here.
Okay, well,
So that's
manufacturing as a human activity is tens of thousands of years old.
Mm-hmm.
We were making furniture, houses, wagons, saddles, and bridles for thousands of years before fossil fuels showed up. So one, again, framing.
Right.
Manufacturing what? For who?
Right.
Okay.
Right. And by who? And so we say it has to be local.
And where?
That's definitely what Kat's saying, is that no movement of goods. So we most probably, and that's what Kat is working on with the city, is we most likely have to stop the cement building. We most likely have to stop it locally. That's another element of the design, because if we stop flying, stop driving, stop the movement of goods. Now maybe there's some part of the cement manufacture, the cement process, the making of concrete, that has to do with something we import, but I don't think it is. I think it's all here. And
the
so
ingredients are all rock.
Yeah.
And they're imported from somewhere.
Oh, you think they're imported, the rocks?
Yep.
They're not coming. We're not getting them locally.
There's no limestone mining here.
Oh, all right. So then that would put an end to the cement industry, the concrete, making of concrete.
Same thing with the steel. There's no steel mining.
All right.
There's
so
no
then
iron ore mining around here.
That envelope of saying no
the
movement
iron
of
ore
goods.
is mined in Australia.
Okay. Okay.
So they can have steel, I guess, but you can't, because you don't have any of that here.
All right. No movement of goods.
Now,
so that's a big envelope.
But I want to be fair on something.
Yeah.
Let's say that of the 51 gigatons of carbon dioxide we are releasing now, let's say that science did some math and said, look, you can't release 51 gigatons safely without damaging the Earth system, but you could release 5 gigatons or maybe 3. Okay. Then we could sit back and say, all right, well, that's not zero. We actually have a budget. Like any household has a budget. We've got a budget. All right, so what are we going to use that for? Now, every single person at the table is going to shoot their hand in the air. Me, my industry. Okay. What's your industry? Hi, I'm Walt Disney Incorporated. I want Disneyland. Okay, forget you. We're not going to have Disneyland. Okay, moving down the table. What about you? I'm the pharmaceutical industry. We need fossil fuels. We want part of that 3 gigatons. Okay, well, maybe not. I mean, really, seriously.
Right.
You've kind of screwed us badly with your pharmaceutical industry. So let's not pass you over. Maybe if we have anything left, we'll come back to you. Another hand in the air. I represent education. We need fossil fuels. Okay, for what? Well, printing textbooks and okay, what about oral tradition? What about just knowing your subject, teaching your students, and then they know something that you knew? Oh, well, I never thought of it. Okay, moving on. Okay, you could go all the way around the table. And let's say that you discover that actually you're going to allow fossil fuel consumption for a couple of key things.
The internet.
A certain amount of manufacturing that people can't do by hand. So computer chips, solar cells, wire, cable, certain things. Okay, these are the raw materials of a digital economy. So let's say that you identify the economic sector called the digital economy, and that doesn't mean Facebook. Well, I'm just talking about hardware. Okay, forget Facebook. If they give up a way to power their server farms with solar or wind, then they can have a Facebook. But we're talking about the digital infrastructure. Okay, so we decide, oh yeah, you can't really manufacture that stuff without a certain amount of mining, a certain amount. So we'll do enough. We'll do enough to maintain the digital economy. Right. And you keep going around the table. The airline industry, they're out. The transportation industry, they're out. Okay, except that someone reminds you, yeah, I'm transportation, but I'm ocean-based transportation. Oh yeah, we used to do that with wind. Okay, so we'll continue to make ships for you. Okay. But they'll have to be wind powered. Can you do that? Well, we haven't done it recently, but could you? Yes, we can do that. Okay, you get some of the 3 gigatons. Okay, so you go around the table and you find the industries that, 1, are critical. Right. Disneyland ain't it. Okay. 2, can be done. Right. without fossil fuel inputs. Doesn't mean they are, but that with a certain amount of innovation and a change of pace or a change of direction, they could be.
Right. Right.
And so you try to save the things that can operate, and you try to subsidize the things that cannot operate without fossil fuels, like a digital economy,
Right.
digital communications. So you go around the table, and what you're going to find out is that 95% of the things that you thought were necessary simply either aren't, or no one cares. It's not worth losing a digital economy to keep Disneyland safe.
Right.
Now, Disneyland is perfectly happy with you losing something to keep them.
Yeah.
They're in business. They're like a blood-sucking vampire. They'll kill and maim anybody they have to kill and maim to get their blood meal, okay?
Right. The People of the Lie. It was the name of a book, was The People of the Lie. And the lie is about what we, like, what was his name that started creating our needs versus our wants versus
Edward Bernays.
Edward Bernays. And we've got to get back to our needs. That's the simple definition of how we go forward, is getting back to our needs, not our wants. And I would just that the internet is so valuable for learning, and we're so blessed to have it. And then I was saying this morning that COVID-19 has, just really helped us move our game to think about how to be free from capitalism and consumerism, especially consumerism, is that we need to stay out of the stores. And we used to not go to stores. We would go to the stores very infrequently. Ma and Pa would take, get the horse ready to go into the go to the store. Maybe less, who knows, even less than that. And get your dry goods, some of your dry goods that you couldn't produce.
Once a week.
Yeah, once a week.
It's still once a week, not twice a day.
Yeah, but I don't think it was once a week. It was a long trip, and getting, he had a lot of responsibilities on the farm to grow things. And, and that's the thing, is that we need to start, making things ourselves. And it's just like I said this morning, here I am, an old hippie, and have been, trying to figure out natural ways of doing things since I was, born 10 years old or something. Having my brother get involved in organic foods and that type of thing, and yoga, and just different orientation.
What was your point?
That I've been looking at being getting back to nature, and for a very long time, for 50 years at least. Okay, so but even me, my dependencies on products that I would buy at the store, I've learned to figure out how to make it myself. And this morning I learned how to make my own tofu. I'm so excited that I can make tofu, and that and making my own ketchup and our own canning. And this is what, I don't go into the stores. I haven't gone to the store. Now I have been bulk buying, and that's, I think, a very critical part of it.
We need to do that today.
Okay, we'll do that. I'll do that. I will do that. We'll do that first thing. And
you make a list. Just write it down on a piece of paper. We'll go over it. I'll add something if I see something missing.
All right. Well, I could, we could just, I'll do it, and then I'll I guess when you do, I'll put it in a cart. You put it in the cart, and then the cart, I'll look at it, and then I can show you the cart, right? And I don't have to write it down. And so we buy bulk of.
The cart doesn't work very well. I'm not sure that would work.
Oh, what did we do as an alternative to the cart? Did we do something different then?
No.
We did have to do the cart.
Yeah, but you can't walk away from the cart. You can't close the window. You can't come back. You can't let the computer go to sleep.
Right. All right. So I'll have to just do it. And then, like I said, so we order our beans, our legumes, same thing, but legumes is what they call them. And then our grains and our nuts and our dried fruit. And I was going to buy seasoning, dried bulk seasoning, garlic, what do they call it? Dry garlic. What do they call
powder?
it? Garlic powder. maybe even onion powder, but I'm not sure if they had
I would
that.
like to have both. Yeah.
I know, but I'm not sure. I saw that they had garlic powder, but whatever we can get in bulk spices. And
Do they have salt?
yes, they had salt, and it was sea salt, and I get that.
We
That
should get some salt.
sea salt is important because I think sea salt meets the guidelines for canning. Because when you can, you must use a salt that has no additives. You know, you can't have
Really?
like no caking. That's why they say use the what is that kosher salt,
Okay.
because it has no additives. You know, and I think
Right.
sea salt meets that guideline. And so they add non-caking things to salt and different things.
Hmm.
So, and then they add some iodine too, or something. You know, you see that with the little girl with the umbrella. That's the kind of salt you don't want to use.
Sometimes
Yeah.
they do. Yeah.
And so that's what we do. And we buy bulk. And that really, really helps. And then growing our own food. We're really working on that. And, you know, that's what we have to start doing, and creating a community where we know our neighbors and what they could produce. We have to become producers, not consumers. And Kat is being a producer of housing. He's a producer. Kat is a producer. And what's so beautiful about what Kat has been doing is he's producing for himself, you know, and that is where we really lost our way, as we saw in the industrialization and mechanization of our agriculture and all of our industrialization period, is that people lost their sense of what is
Purpose.
ownership, and also Kat calls it agency. And that really came to light with what happened with Texas, when they did not have food in their in their markets because the 18-wheelers couldn't get in because of the snowstorm. And I was thinking, what type of stupid animal we've become, that our food is dependent on somebody bringing it to us. And that's where Kat has always said that we are comparable to an animal in a zoo. Right, an animal in a zoo. And so
that's the kind of animal
right,
we
and that's so
we become a caged animal.
A caged animal. And when people talk about freedom, that we have the freedom to have our guns, or our freedom to and all our guns are doing, people say our guns are there to take over our government. Oh, take back our government. And they said that's what happened at January 6th. It was an insurrection.
Okay, now you've off on another topic.
All right, don't even go there. Okay, fine. So it's getting ourselves independent of consumerism.
All these people that are pursuing these fairly abstract freedoms, like freedom to have all the guns you want,
all the cars you want, all the cows you want,
and drive all you want. These kind of freedoms are abstract. In reality, in the real world, all these people pursuing all these abstract freedoms are caged.
Right, that's what it is. Yeah,
they're caged. Someone is bringing them their food. Someone's bringing them their water. Right. Someone's taking their wastes away. Someone's providing them shelter. They're just like a caged animal, a tiger or an elephant or a walrus or anything.
Right.
They can't do for themselves.
A zoo animal, yeah.
So, I mean, tigers have the freedom to, tear people to pieces with their claws, but there's nobody there, and they can't get out of the cage, and they can't provide for themselves. The tiger, even though it's fierce, and could take care of itself,
a zoo tiger.
In a cage.
It's in a zoo.
And all these people running around demanding their freedoms are caged. They can't get out. They wouldn't know the first thing to do to get out.
And like in the book The Grapes of Wrath, I forgot his name, Jess or Jed or whatever his name was. Jode was very broken when he had to leave his Oklahoma home because of the Dust Bowl, which was actually brought on by our fossil fuel. We can look into that, but whatever it was, the Dust Bowl, and he had to go to California and become part of an agribusiness. And he lost his own farm that he was growing his own food. And I see that, with Kat, building his own home, creating his own business, to create an economy, a hyper-local economy, a fossil fuel-free economy, which is based on, providing housing in our case, and how it gives him agency to do things for himself, which is, which he didn't get from, providing code for Cisco kind of thing. And this is where we have to get back to, is to create agency ourselves, to create the kind of become producers. That's what we have to do, is become producers, not consumers. And it is
really hard to do.
Yeah.
Very hard to do.
Yeah.
And the hardest part is realizing that you can and should do that.
Right. So everything that COVID has shown us, like it has shown us about who's getting sick. People getting sick are the essential workers. We need to get rid of all essential workers, because again, that's a dependency. If they're essential, then we have to depend on somebody else to keep ourselves going. That is a dependency. So to say that the essential workers have to stay in the grocery stores, and now they're saying, we'll give them $3 more an hour, which, and somebody was saying, Mayor Liccardo was the one who brought it down to 3 versus 5, and people are saying, hey, it should have been 10 if you're really thinking about the minority people that are suffering from COVID-19. And so,
or you could just solve the problem.
Right, by staying out of the market.
Give them a workplace where they don't get sick.
Right, exactly, and that's what we have to go towards. And the workplace that isn't where we are going, they're getting sick, is some type of it should be a bulk buying facility where you're just bringing the container, and these people in there who are safe from each other and just they're the only ones inside. Or maybe it's some kind of outdoor market. We don't even hardly need any building per se, where we have silos of grains, and we need that. That's, Kat was even saying that, and we need to bring the silo back into our communities, where we just, here's our train tracks right here, where they dump it to some silo like they do in the Midwest or something, right? Yep. And we get our legumes, our lentils, our pinto beans, and they're just there, and there's just somebody who is, distributing it. Maybe it's, maybe to reduce the distribution access, maybe just one community member comes and gets, a very large amount for that neighborhood, or something like that. So
you're talking about coronavirus.
Well, what I was thinking.
Coronavirus is going to be gone in a year.
I know, but no, what I was thinking
I'm talking about the next. Yeah. The project for the next 500 years.
Right, and the project for the next 500 years is how we become. We don't need essential workers. That we become fiercely independent of consumerism, and therefore we create, bulk buying of our, or ideally we would be growing our grains.
But as soon as you said that,
buying.
Bill Gates and all of his industrialists got up and walked out of the room.
What was that? What did I say? That made them go.
We must give up on consumerism.
Oh, okay, yeah, they left. Yeah.
As soon as you said that.
Yeah, right. So, yeah.
You're the lecturer at Davos. As soon as you said that, everybody in the room got up and walked out.
Mm-hmm.
All right?
Right.
They don't buy that.
Mm-hmm.
This is going to be a hard sell. I don't think it can be sold. I don't think anyone's going to buy this.
Oh, no?
No.
They become producers, not consumers?
Yes.
Not true. Well, but that's going back to the 1700s. That's where we have to go.
No, it's not going back to the 1700s. It's going forward in a way that remembers how to live as we did in the year 1700.
Exactly. That's much better.
We're not going back to the year 1700.
Right.
We're not going back to any age prior to this one. We're going to keep our internet. We're going to keep our modern medicine. We're going to keep our education system. We're going to keep solar panels. We're going to keep everything that we can bring forward. We're going to abandon the things we cannot go forward, and we're going to be different. But we're going forward. We're not going back.
Right. Well, in our education system, if we look at that, and the problems we're having with that in regards to COVID, and the teachers, ghettoizing the teachers with all these kids together.
Okay, so in a year it's done. COVID's done. Everybody's back in the classroom. Did we fix anything?
Not really, no.
Okay, what's the problem with
schools?
The model of schools as we have
because they have to drive to the school.
Exactly. It has nothing to do with coronavirus. The schools as they are now instituted, you need communities, one-room schoolhouses where your small children, they can be walked to school, they can ride their bicycle to school. It's 2 blocks away.
Well, I say it has to be totally decentralized, and that the mother or it is the parent up until, let's say, at least 5 years old. The mother is the one that stays home, and that's how they do it in other European countries. They pay the parent to stay home for 5 years, and that they say
pay the parent so that the family can continue to participate in consumerism.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, the pay is what you need to play.
Yeah.
Now, if consumerism is no longer the game, then that's no longer the game.
Well, maybe that's a transition. The transition is to pay her until we can figure out how to live, totally self-sufficiently, right? Without money.
That's a major transition. For people to be more self-sufficient is a huge transition.
Right.
And it's not just technical, although there are some technical challenges. It's also cultural and basically psychological.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest hurdles are going to be psychological and cultural.
Uh-huh.
There are people that are addicted to shopping. Did you know that?
Mm-hmm. Oh.
I was hearing some woman, or maybe you reported it to me, some woman was saying that the lockdown is terrible. She hasn't been able to go shopping for a month. And I thought, okay, that's sure signs of an addiction. She's not saying, I've run out of food and I don't have milk and eggs and my larder. That's not what she was saying. She was saying, I haven't been able to go shopping for a month. She's addicted to shopping. People are addicted to consumerism.
Yeah, right.
It gives them an endorphin rush and they get warm fuzzies when they're shopping and looking great and looking at expensive things.
Mm-hmm.
So that's your real challenge. Your real challenge is actually to get people, to go through some sort of a 12-step program to free themselves of the addiction to shopping. Mm-hmm. And their addiction to sports, and their addiction to driving fast, and their addiction to travel. Without these things, they lose their fucking mind.
Right.
Because they're addicted.
And addiction to money. For instance, I have to decide now if I'm going to spend $200 every 2 years for contact lenses, or do I just wear my old glasses and call it good? But then I would have to wear glasses, and it's all these choices we have to make, and the compromises we've made for money, and and
yet is one of the things I might actually lobby for continuing.
But why contact lenses? Because it makes you look prettier.
No, it's
you
okay.
Can see your eyes.
No, it's okay.
It is nice to see your eyes.
It's fine.
And
it's a small enough impact, and it's highly technical enough that it needs a certain fossil fuel allotment to maybe make that work. Although it might turn out that the way they make contact lenses and the materials they make them out of, the actual consumption of fossil fuels is so tiny.
Oh, tiny.
So tiny. Well, look how big a contact lens is.
Yeah, I know.
It's almost nothing. You realize what you're paying. You're probably paying $1 a piece for them, and they weigh less than a lentil. You're paying $1 for a lentil's worth of material.
But they're amazing.
Yeah, that's my point. Is they're amazing. Okay, and the way they can improve a person's life is so profound that maybe that's one of the things we allow for. So we have to deliberately
allow for that. How does it improve my life is so profound that people can look into my eyes. That's nice. I look a little nicer.
I'm just saying that visual corrective measures are life changing.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay?
Glasses are essential for me.
At that point, then I would say, okay, and it doesn't matter whether you're wearing frames or you're wearing contact lenses.
Right.
That's a personal choice.
Oh, thank you.
The ability to improve your vision and continue to function in society is life affirming, and we should do that.
Yeah. But I could just wear an old pair of glasses.
Okay, but that's a matter of choice.
Well, it's a matter of choice. And, the thing with the fogging, with the masks and things like that, I haven't figured that out, so I have to figure that out. And so I might need to, just maybe go for the contact lenses because it makes it easier for me when I'm walking with my sticks and I don't have access to, my hands to do things with my glasses or whatever. So, I don't know. See what if it's worth the $200. That was only every 2 years.
Spend the money.
You like that?
Yeah.
More than glasses? You like seeing my eyes? Huh?
You're turning this into a vanity issue.
Okay. Well, I guess that's all
I'm telling you to get whatever you want.
Oh, either way. I could go either way. Okay, fine. He's willing to pay the 200. Thank you, honey. So, but what was neat is that I found that I don't even have to go to an eye doctor. I found a resource to get it all virtual. I think that's wonderful. And I say those that have figured out the virtualization of their economy are the ones that are succeeding in this economy now.
Well, and there's a lot of people who figure that out who stormed the Capitol on January 6th. Okay?
Mm.
There's going to be a lot of people get left behind.
Mm-hmm.
They can't make the transition either because they
That's
couldn't
true.
make the cultural change, they couldn't alter their own psychology, whatever the problem is.
Mm-hmm.
They end up going down the rabbit hole, pursuing dire conspiracies, and then they storm the Capitol.
Yeah.
And the real issue for them is that they don't have a future.
Right. Right.
Now, I am sympathetic to that.
Mm-hmm.
I understand things are changing, and it's really disturbing to people
Right.
who have no means to watch their world crumble around them. I understand that.
Mm-hmm.
But them, they have a legitimate concern. My advice, if they wanted it, would be you got to bring yourself into the modern times. You have to become less fossil fuel dependent, and you have to find a way to make a living, whatever that means.
Or to survive. Let's just
free
talk
of
about
carbon.
surviving, because forget the living.
Okay.
You know, we need
Making
food,
a
clothing,
living,
and shelter.
Making a living, I put in air quotes. Okay.
All right.
If
Or
it
food,
means
clothing, and
you
shelter.
become a small-time subsistence farmer, then that's what you do.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah.
Right now, there's maybe 3% of the population does agriculture.
Yeah.
In the past, it was 3%. Well, we're going back to
Right.
somewhere like that. You know, maybe it won't be 90% of the population doing agriculture, but I'll bet it's close to 70%, 60%, something like that ends up doing agriculture.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
And we need to elevate that
Right.
as a really critical and honored trade.
Okay. Right. Well, forget. And I say
Farming.
all education could be through that lens. All education could be successfully done. Through the sciences, the math, right? Everything could be done through the home arts and the growing of food, right? And understanding, plants and understanding animals that eat the plants or whatever it is. Everything that we're doing, the chemistry, the biology, the physics, is all there in the food growing phenomenon, in everything we do. And that's what our education should be about, is how we are able to survive. That's it. And also, to participate in our democracy. So the thing is that, like when everybody is currently very angry at our politicians for shutting down the economy because of COVID. And yet that was the blessing that COVID has brought us, is shutting down the economy, because that's how we figured out how to learn how to do without it. And that's the thing that we have to do, versus getting angry that the economy was shut down. We have to learn to do without the economy.
First of all,
without the restaurants.
The economy was never shut down.
That's true too.
Never shut down.
That's true.
There was maybe 2-3 weeks, and then there was a lot of fear. People were afraid to go to restaurants and places, and those places turned out to be vulnerable.
Right.
To people being afraid to go there.
And our schools were not a good place for our kids. But we have known the reality is, the truth is, our schools have not been safe for our children for a really long time. And now we're having to, my husband and I work and we can't take care of our children. Well, we know that. And you have to figure it out. How can you take care of your children and be okay? You can make it work out. You can do that. You might not live in your own big 3-story house, Might have to live with your grandparents. Things like that. Kat, how did you like that breakfast?
Good.
Wasn't it good? Our salad was delicious. All right, so I have to place the order. Are you going out to work, honey? Oh, we were going to go look at the colors. I wanted to go do that. Okay, we love you. Bye.
What?
I wanted to go look at the, I was thinking about it last night. The issues that we were talking about with the brown versus the white. It says post for 30 days, never delete. Post now. Oh, you're going to put that? You want to name that? What would we do?